Hello, so my name is Bennett Hine, and today I will be taking you through my environmental science poster about selective logging and how it's linked to a decrease in the open canopy nesting availability for Western Lowland gorillas. So overall, I was really interested in this topic because I have a fascination with Western Lowland gorillas, and recently I've come to see that they are critically endangered um, on the IUCN Red List. So after doing more research, I found information about the Western Lowland gorilla species, and my topic is about how selective logging leads to habitat disruption and a decrease in habitat availability of preferred sites. So my study was led by Barbara Howers, who studied at the Precious Woods Gabon in Southeast Gabon, and it's going over the Western lowland gorilla habitat preferences and their nesting use, habitat type availability, and construction frequency of different nest types. So I'll take you through some information such as their methods, materials, um, results, and a discussion. So my first figure is going to talk about habitat availability. So as you can see, there were 3 different censuses, and these were taken over a different period of time. So they found that the forests impacted by logging, um, gorillas tended to avoid these sites while they preferred open canopy sites and closed canopy sites. However, the forest impacted by logging um, increased in availability while the open canopy and closed canopy availability decreased over time. For materials and methods, they used different statistical tests and software to investigate habitat preferences. They conducted different censuses and compared habitat use for nesting, habitat type availability, and construction frequency of different nest types. Also, the vegetation types that they used were closed canopy, open canopy, flooded vegetation type, and forest impacted by logging. So here's my next figure, which kind of shows you the comparison of nest density. So throughout the 3 censuses, we see different information such as their nest density, Western lowland gorilla density, and nest decay rate. One big thing that you can see is their Western lowland gorilla density definitely increased between census 1 and census 3, which means that there was probably less habitat availability. And so they all kind of became closer, and which increased the density. And then for results, the selective logging in Central Africa definitely affected the Western lowland gorillas' nesting patterns and behavior. There was a significant increase in the estimated Western lowland gorilla density between census 2 and 3. So that means that when they changed where they lived, the researchers saw a dramatic shift in the Western lowland gorilla densities. The research also shows that they preferred open canopy and closed canopy habitats rather than the forest impacted by logging. And there was a decrease in open and closed forests. So here's the data that shows that. And then there's also an increase in the amount of forest impacted by logging between the first and second census. And so this data just kind of proves and shows how selective logging adversely affects their habitat preferences because there's less habitat availability for nesting nesting that they like versus there's a decrease um, in open and closed canopy forests. So here's 2 figures. So the first figure shows, figure 3 shows that there's closed canopy and open canopy. So the main thing is that closed canopy is um, characterized by large trees and a lot of shady region, while as open canopy is characterized by a lot of light and a lot less trees and shrubbery. Then on the right, you can see a picture of the Western lowland gorilla. In figure 5, we have 2 maps, and then, so this is just a zoomed in picture of the central map. So this is central Gabon, and then this is where the study site took place in southeast Gabon. And then, so just for my discussion, overall, the Western lowland gorilla habitat has experienced changes. So we saw that through a difference in the habitat availability shift among the different censuses and the increase in the Western lowland gorilla density. So the experiment had a interesting finding, which is also that they tend to favor the open canopy forests. Um, However, they do not like the forest impacted by logging. And so I'd say that these results are really key because it helps humans to understand our effect on the Western lowland gorilla species. As we log more, we have to be more mindful of how we're impacting the gorilla species because they also have a direct impact on the ecosystem. The Western lowland gorillas, as saw through the research, they have the ability to disperse seeds, and that has definitely led them to be a critical part of our ecosystem. And so if we saw their extinction, or if we saw the Western lowland gorilla species go extinct, that would not be scientifically like good, if that makes sense. However, the generalizability of the results are limited because we mainly looked at the impact and results from one study, and we need to see similar studies done in a variety of different locations over an extended period of time. However, this work is just really important because it shows that properly managed forests with minimum logging are going to help gorillas overcome the threat of extinction. And we just need to understand how their habitat availability is affected by outside impact like the selective logging. And then as a result of these habitat shifts, we can estimate differences in densities and preferences.